The Monday, March 31st, 2025 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Davis?
Here.
Commissioner Gottlieb?
Here.
Commissioner Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Mayer?
Here.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel?
Here.
And Mayor Handler.
Here. All right, Commissioners, we have an agenda in front of us. Do we have a motion on this agenda? Commissioner Davis?
I move we approve, oh, that's loud. I move we approve the agenda as presented.
A second? Commissioner Gottlieb?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I have no announcements today, which brings us to our appointments from the boards and committees. Commissioners, do I have a motion? Commissioner Larson?
They
They are very loud.
all very loud today. I move that we appoint Perry David Allen II to the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for an unexpired term ending 2/1/27. Perry David Allen II to the Election Board for a term ending 4/11/2029. Dallas Fetter to the Board of Zoning Appeals as the Planning Commission representative for a term ending in 2/15/2026.
Do we have a second? Pro Tem Schlegel?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Just that I appreciate folks stepping up and continuing to serve.
Same. Thank you.
All right. That brings us to a vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. This brings us to our first public comment of the evening. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when addressing the commission. Do we have anyone for public comment this evening?
Couldn't get to my printer at the office today, so you guys get my comments from my laptop. So, good evening. My name is Chelsea Wilkinson. I'm here representing 447 West Washington Street. I'm the executive director at Room at the Inn. We are committed to providing shelter and supportive services to families and individuals experiencing homelessness in Marquette County. I'm here today to express my concern regarding the proposed amendment to Chapter 22, Article 2 of the Marquette City Code, specifically Ordinance number 25-02, which would prohibit the overnight occupation of public property. The current language in this proposed ordinance is alarmingly vague. As currently written, it criminalizes sleeping outdoors or in vehicles on public property, including the use of tents, hammocks, sleeping bags, and other basic survival paraphernalia. This will disproportionately affect individuals and families who have no other safe place to go, and it could significantly worsen the challenges faced by people who are already struggling with housing insecurity in our community. The language prohibits sleeping on city-controlled or city-owned properties, which could virtually extend to any land within Marquette's jurisdiction. We are also concerned that this ordinance appears to allow law enforcement to seize and dispose of personal property with very little recourse for individuals who are removed from said property. This is particularly troubling as it could lead to the loss of vital personal belongings for individuals who already have few resources. While we totally understand the city's goal of maintaining a safe and clean public spaces for all, I would urge you to reconsider the overly broad nature of this ordinance as presented, and instead of criminalizing survival practices, I would encourage the city to explore more compassionate alternatives and creating more dialogue around how we can better serve the folks that we're all here to serve. For context, our location has 30 permanent beds, but we've been working closely with the fire marshal to open our dining room to accommodate an additional 16 cots. I'm incredibly concerned about where these folks will go when our winter overflow space accommodation is required to go back to those 30 permanent beds. I would be remiss to not acknowledge that the city of Marquette often unfairly bears the burden of weight of incidences concerning some of our most challenging clients. You know, I had the privilege of attending the city, the state of the city and county last Friday, and so it's nice to see many of you again. But I think one of the most common things that were talked about was the need to address complex issues in a more intentional way, and I hope that we can continue to do that. Thank you for your time and your consideration, and please feel free to reach out on how we can amend that ordinance as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Coppola. I'm the Street Outreach Case Manager at Room at the Inn, 447 West Washington. I did not prepare a speech, but I would like to say with my my staff, we do hand out tents. I have well over 100 clients, and when we can't accommodate them, I could cheer up, it is very challenging. So like to have an alternative would be great. I would also like to speak on my experience as well. I was homeless at one point few years ago in Marquette. And I know that it wasn't quite common. A lot of people, you know, I know that they don't really look at it and they kind of like look at it, judge, you know, basically in Marquette. But I was one of those people. I know how hard it is to get in there, to get in that situation and to climb out of it. And not many people do. I would say more than half don't, which is why they lead to further destruction and addiction. So I do want to speak on that and say how challenging it is, and that, you know, I really do back what Chelsea said. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, public comment is now closed. This brings us to our presentation tonight. We have one presentation, the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority update by Trail Administrator Bob Hendrickson. Thank you for joining us tonight, Bob.
Yeah, thank you for adding me to your agenda this evening. I don't have a lot of graphics to put up, but I'd like to just talk about a little bit about the Iron Ore Heritage Trail. I've been the trail administrator now for 2 years. I took over for Carol Fulcher, and she worked with her for a half year on that. There's been several projects that were in the works and then have been completed since that time. Several of them outline areas of Marquette, but within the area of Marquette, we can address those too. The bigger ones are 176-acre land acquisition in Negaunee and Marquette Township that was secured through a Michigan Trust Fund grant. We installed a 750-foot boardwalk east of the city of Negaunee. That was also done through a Michigan Trust Fund grant. And we are currently working on the Lankin Land extension in Chocolate Township, which will be a 4.5-mile extension from Cabogam Road to the Lankin Land Sculpture Park. Another big accomplishment that we had in 2024 is that we did get the millage passed in Ely, Humboldt, and again in Republic Townships. So now we have a full representation of the municipalities for the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority. To give you a little bit of background, the Recreation Authority was built forth through the Michigan Recreational Authority Act in 2000, and then we were actually one of the first organizations to attain the Recreation Authority, which allows municipalities to get together to utilize multiple municipality functions, either through parks, through venues, and through areas that can be provided for the municipalities, a common use. So what the trail is referred to as a linear park. It starts out in Republic at the old bank building, travels 47 miles through all the townships of Republic, Humboldt, Ely, Tilden Township, the city of Ishpeming, the city of Negaunee, Negaunee Township, Marquette Township, the city of Marquette, and then Chocolate Township. One of the bigger projects that we've been kind of discussed with the Marquette Arts and Culture Department is the Shoreline Cultural Trail. And one of the sites that are shared with that is the Carp River Kiln site, which is one of the first places on the cultural trail that will be at the Carp River, the mouth of the Carp River. That's one area that we'd like to address with the city to create a little more cohesive relationship with that. From my understanding is that the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority funded the rebuilding of the Carp River Kiln as a dedication to the forges that were there in the past. Also gave interpretive signs in a park area. We then handed that back over to the city. The little bit of maintenance of it was a little bit of like who took care of what type of thing. And I think currently it's through the Department of Public Works that maintains it. We are offering to do a little more of an upgrade on that and try to create a little more of a park setting for it. If you noticed the past couple of winters, we've added some safety fencing around it. That's not for the snow. That's actually to keep the snowmobilers from crossing across that. We had a lot of complaints that the surface was getting damaged. So we took that upon ourselves to at least maintain that area from further destruction of the property there, which seems to be working. The snowmobiles go around on the grass and it's been working fine there. Part of the Shoreline Cultural Trail too is addressing the Native American influence that was there. And I think that's a huge component that can work with the city and the Heritage Trail. I think the mix of both. We also have an interpretive sign that will be on the Lankinen Land Extension that will be working with that. Coming up in the 2025, we have a huge board dynamic change, and that'll be with the 10 representatives, 5 of them will be relatively new. With the City of Marquette appointment, Lauren Luce, who was appointed in February, she had served on the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority Board as the county representative. The county representative comes on and off depending on the number of people that are on the board. Our articles of incorporation require that we have a odd number of voting members on. So coming up with the 10 municipalities that we have, we'll need an appointment from the County of Marquette to create that odd person. So we'll have 11-member board. One of the big things with our board going, Nick Leach, who had been the previous City of Marquette representative, he served 6 years, 2 terms, which then, as per city charter, that you needed to term him off. So that's where Lauren Luce came in. And then Don Britton is stepping off. He's one of the last, or he is the last founding member of the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority. So he's been the Chocolate representative plus a major representative of the trail system, really implementing a lot of the projects that have happened through his connections in the community and a lot of the state connections that he has. So we did a farewell to Don at our last board meeting on March 26th. The incoming board will be coming in April 23rd, next month, April 23rd, 2025. A couple of things that we have coming up for housekeeping. Since we are doing some changes with the board, we are going to be working with amending our articles of incorporation. And those include the territory, the participating municipalities and territories. Currently, Ely and Humboldt and Republic are not on our charter or on our articles of incorporation, and we need to upgrade that or update that in Article 2 of our articles of incorporation. The other article of incorporation that we need to amend, or we would like to, which was voted on by the Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Board and approved, and I've been going to the municipalities for that, is Article 6, Section 1, where the Marquette County appoints their board member. The board of directors shall consist of an odd number of members, with one appointed by the legislative body of each participating municipality. Should the authority grow or shrink to represent an even number of participating municipalities, the legislative body of the Marquette County will appoint a member maintaining an odd number of directors. The Marquette or the county appointed member must be a qualified elector of one of the municipalities of the authority, and what we would like to change that to is a qualified elector of Marquette County. And then we feel that would be a broaden the pool and also a more of a representative platform of Marquette County. What we'd like to forth do is, in the upcoming meeting in April, we'd like to ask for that amendment so we can be in compliance with our articles of incorporation. And I think that's about all I have at this point. If you guys have questions, I'd be more than happy to ask them or answer them.
Any questions? Pro Tem Schlegel?
More of a statement, Bob. First of all, I know how involved you are in this and other areas, and thank you for all you do serving the public. But I remember in the early 2000s when one of the early members of the committee came to a junior chamber group and spoke of this just getting started. And maybe the Republic section was done, or I can't remember when that one, when the first section was completed. But I look at where it is now, 20-some, almost 25 years later, and it really has blossomed into something that we can hold as a regional tool, and then something that I'd be very proud of. And I think it's just to see where it's come in that short period of time just speaks volumes to the hard work that the committee has done, and I just wanted to give that recognition. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll send that on. I mean, it definitely is the previous board. It was truly a working board that was in place for the time. We still have a very active board. I think a lot of our direction now, we're kind of in a new chapter of the trail. It's definitely going into more of a maintenance plan of how we keep this asset going. Also working with members of like the NTN, the Rambo group and Ishmael Nagani, also the state of Michigan, the ORV trails, trying to work all those pieces into it to help develop that backbone of trail system in Marquette County.
Anyone else? Commissioner Gottlieb?
I was going to say what you just said, that it's wonderful to see how you are working with the other trail groups in the city, in the county rather. And as a guy who lives across the street from the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, I am amazed at how well used it is. It's amazing, and I think it's been a great asset to our community and the county. And
I
thank you very
agree.
much.
I agree. Each community has its own personalities for sure, and use. I mean, it's really each community takes it on as their piece of the trail, and but it also attracts a lot of out-of-town people that enjoy it for the whole thing that it has, and also the showcasing of Marquette County and the city of Marquette.
Any other commissioners? I did have one question. Can you clarify the second amendment you were talking about how you want to have the members to the voting board? I'm a little confused onto what's different about it.
Okay. Primarily, right now, the way it reads is that one of the participating municipality, or one of the electors, the county appointed member must be a qualified elector of the participating municipalities of the authority. What the plan would be, or the request be, and this is discussed with the Heritage Trail Board, is that that elector be a representative of Marquette County. Broadening the availability of people that would be interested in doing that position, and just the pool of who could bring into it.
Are you having trouble getting people from the current municipalities?
We don't choose the people. Like, we can recommend those. But what we do is usually make recommendations to the municipality that we're approaching with that, and then hand that off to them on who they appoint.
I guess, and then my only other question, because I'm not quite certain exactly how many municipalities, I assume the majority of Marquette County is part of the municipalities at this point, correct?
10 of the municipalities are. So I'm not sure of the total 22, so half.
Okay, so so less than half.
Yeah.
And so you're just trying to find a bigger pool, but if we could find someone from one of the municipalities, wouldn't that make more sense at this point? If they're part of the trail?
Yeah, the recommendation from the board was to, ask to make it a general qualifier or a general elector, but
Okay.
yeah, that'd be a county decision.
Oh, absolutely. I was confused as if we weren't having an issue finding people for it, why we would try and change it is
Sure.
is the only question I had on that. All right, thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming tonight.
Thank
Have a
you for
good
your
evening.
time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, this brings us to our public hearing first of the public hearings for the evening, the Able Medical Devices Industrial Development District. City Clerk, can I please have the background?
In August 2024, Longyear Realty Corporation, on behalf of Able Medical Devices, requested the city create an industrial development district for their site within the intent to apply for a tax abatement in accordance with PA 198 of 1974 Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption. The requested district will include a portion of the parcel owned by Longyear Realty Corporation as outlined on the attached map. An industrial development district is a designated area established by the legislative body of a city. These districts are created to support eligible businesses in making new investments in Michigan. Tax abatements provided within these districts help Michigan manufacturers by lowering the tax burden on investments, making it more feasible to build new facilities, expand current operations, renovate old buildings, or acquire new machinery and equipment. An industrial development district must be established prior to an application for a tax abatement is processed. The public hearing is a required step in the process to establish an industrial development district and was scheduled at the March 10th City Commission meeting. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, approve the resolution and authorize the city clerk to sign. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Now, before we start the hearing, I'm going to hand this over to City Manager Karen Kovacs to give us just a little bit more background. Commission, please no comments or questions on this until after the public hearing has started.
Sure. I thought it could possibly be helpful to provide some information on PA 198 and the formation of that district. So this information was also shared and presented to the City Commission at the work session back in October as well. So it may sound familiar, but this is a refresher. So the purpose really of PA 198 of 1974 is essentially to provide some incentives for eligible businesses to make investments in Michigan. It's one of the most commonly used economic development tools available in Michigan, and it's certainly a tool available for the local municipalities to encourage development, especially those that are centered around jobs and industry relevant to our county. Only certain types of businesses are eligible. Its first focus was on industrial manufacturing companies, but then expanded into other priority industries such as high tech and especially medical device technology. This program offers a tax abatement that is paid as an industrial facilities tax, which is computed based on the new development or improvements at approximately half of that local property tax millage rate. And I really stress that because this means that the city still receives property taxes, full property taxes for the current value of that property as it is right now. So we are not losing anything. We are going to be gaining something if it were to be an abatement. The other thing is it's limited to a maximum of 12 years. So there is an ability for that to be less than the 12 years within reason for certain criteria that is to be determined. But it's also one of those incentives for economic development that is less than perhaps maybe a brownfield or something of that nature. So this might sound familiar, PA 198 or tax abatements for industrial development districts, because the city has previously approved tax abatements under PA 198 for high-tech medical devices, and that was for the previously called Pioneer Surgicals, or I think now Resolve, and that is a sign of success for that economic development tool because they continue to expand on that. And similar to what we would hope to expect here with if it goes, PA 198 abatement is offered for Able as well. So the last abatement certificate was had expired in 2019. So now the process starts with a request to form a district, which requires a public hearing. That's what's about to happen. And if that district is approved or formed, then the owner or developer can submit an application for the tax abatement, which also does require a public hearing such as this to approve that. So where we are today is simply on that district formation part. More information we talk about the tax abatement or calculating that can be presented at that time, but what we are really here to discuss is just that district formation. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. With that, I will open the public hearing. Members of the public wishing to make a public comment on this hearing have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and physical address when addressing the commission. Do we have anyone for public comment?
Hello, my name's Mary Myers. Work for the Lake Superior Community Partnership, and our address is 101 West Washington in Marquette. I am the Director of Economic Development Services, which is we're the local economic development organization in town. Christopher Germain sends his apologies, he's under the weather. He was supposed to be here presenting, but instead you get me. So I'm here tonight to express LSCP's strong support for the establishment of the Industrial Development District, which is tailored to support the growth of able medical devices. This action does not approve the tax abatement, as Karen just mentioned. It simply establishes the district, which is just a procedural important step toward establishing and enabling future growth. Able Medical's proposed expansion represents a significant and meaningful opportunity for our region. 40 new high-paying jobs, averaging over $36 per hour. That's 75% higher than the regional median wage of $20.88. A projected $13 million investment in Marquette. The project has already earned the support of the MEDC with a $500,000 grant from the Michigan Business Development Program, showing the confidence from the state of this project. We have heard concerns of how the industrial development may impact the trail system, which is a vital, cherished part of our community. This district does not impact that. At the LSCP, we understand the economic and cultural value of our trail system, which is estimated to generate $41.5 million annually in the economy. So does Longyear, which is the parent company of Able Medical Device. They have a deep local legacy and are fully aware that our trails are not just recreational assets, but economic assets as well. This is not a case of jobs versus trails. It's a thoughtful step forward that protects both. We can grow our economy while maintaining the natural and recreational assets that define us. So on behalf of the LSCP, we hope that you can support this. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, Lori Hasworth. I'm the Executive Director of NTN, and our address is 401 East Fair, and that was a good lead-in for me to talk about trails. We're not here to be for or against the Industrial Development District, more to raise awareness of the impact that these developments are having on the trails. We did send a letter to the City Commission, and hopefully you all had a chance to review that. Included a map so you can kind of get an idea of how we've been adapting to some of the pressure out there in that area. We like to refer to the trail experience. We have great trail connectivity in this community. It's what makes it amazing. It's what attracts people here. It's what allows the public to access trails from their back door, really. There's not a lot of communities in the United States where I visited that are as great as we have it here. We've been adapting to the sale of that property that had happened. I'm losing track of the years now. I think it was 2020, maybe, when that property was originally sold. At that time, in the sales agreement, there was intent from the seller of the city and the buyer that trails would be worked into any development that would happen. But there really was no teeth put into that request when that happened. We're looking for opportunities to raise awareness to this, because as we get, I don't want to say chipped away at the edges of the experience that we're providing here at the trails, we need to be really diligent in trying to protect that experience and make sure we're protecting the trails in perpetuity. That corridor right now does not have permanent easements on it through the property that is being discussed tonight. I don't think any of our existing trails, because we did close the one trail that went directly through the property, is no longer there. We were allowed to kind of jump the property line to reestablish an easier route back to the trailhead. In doing so, we actually eliminated another exit to 553 so we can consolidate crossings at the Benson, what we call the Benson crossing, for safety. With more activity out there, obviously, the trails, the use is getting impacted. So we just wanted to, acknowledge, as the NTN board, we just want to make sure, that we're asking the city to prioritize the protection of these corridors when you have the opportunity to do it. and really the integrity of the Heartwood easement that we've done to protect that area, which is a huge asset to the community, not just trail users. I really look at that space as a community park. So the more we can do to protect it, the better. And this just may be an opportunity to leverage some permanent protection in concert with the benefit that the Longyear is getting with this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Hicks. I'm the CEO of Longyear, and thank you for the consideration, and thank you for your time tonight. Just a little bit of background about Able Medical. I know Mary talked about 40 jobs. Right now, we have about 70 jobs. We started in 2018. We have 2 different divisions, one in manufacturing for orthopedics, spine, foot and ankle, some trauma, some cardiothoracic, and we also have a product development division. And this Part 198 fits right into the key of what the state wants is high-tech growth, and especially in medical devices. There was mention of a purchase, which we did in September of 2020. And besides the consideration, there was really three key items there in the development agreement. One was spend more than $1 million on developing a facility. 2, it was to be in place by 5 years, 2 years development, 3-year extensions, and 3, it was work with the trail system. First of all, on the $1 million, we far exceeded that. I can tell you that. It is a facility of 30,000 square feet, and you're all invited at any time to take a look at it. It's state of the art and has some really cutting edge technology into it. It has expansion to 100,000 square feet, and I wouldn't be surprised within a year or 2 we will be growing. That industrial development zone is just on the 10 acres that occupies the medical device. So it's not across all 62 acres, just for clarity. The second piece was to be in business within 5 years, start breaking ground. We broke ground last year, which was in year 4. And if anyone, I don't care, you're in the medical field, if you know, there was elective surgeries, and we were in the elective surgery zone. So we lost about 2 years of opportunities to develop the business, or at least start construction. So we met first and second criteria, and then work with the NTN. And as Lori said, we have helped and assisted in moving that trail. NTN is really key. We've been with the NTN for 30 plus years. We started with the ski trails, and we have probably 15 to 20 miles of trails across our property. So we know the benefit of that. One of the key pieces of putting it into that area was the trail system. And I know a number of our folks are going to take use of that trail system during their lunch hours or maybe ride to work. So it is really a key opportunity for us. So again, Part 198 has no impact fiscally to the city. And the second part is we're only asking for 10 out of the 62 acres where the Able Medical Device is situated. So it's not across the whole property. So thank you for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
We can't ask questions right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Anyone else? With that, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do I have a motion? Commissioner Gottlieb?
Yes, I move to postpone until the April 28th City Commission meeting any action on the establishment of an industrial development designation so that the city manager can work with the property owners to craft language that would guarantee the integrity of the trails that currently exist on the owner's contiguous property.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
For discussion purposes, I'll second that motion.
Okay, opening the discussion, Commissioner Gottlieb.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable because it's the first time I'm taking a possibly unpopular stand. Let me say I am in favor of the development of an IDD. But during the meeting September 14th, 2020, the City Commission voted to allow the sale of Heartwood parcels 9, 10, 11. At that meeting, the City Commission expressed desire to preserve the integrity of the South Trail system, specifically the trails that course through those 3 parcels. The language in the purchase agreement, however, that was ultimately signed did not guarantee that integrity. although it did state the purchaser would work with NTN. I believe that the industrial development designation and tax abatement on parcel 11 will support the development of the remainder of that parcel, as well as that of parcels 9 and 10, which will in turn threaten the integrity of the trails that remain or have already been rerouted there. Loss of those trails will be a detriment to the Marquette residents and the travelers to our area, hurting all of Marquette, including the current residents and businesses. I'm hoping the City Commission will consider voting with my motion for this for now and ask the city manager to work with Longyear to come up with an agreement that would allow the development or allow the IDD and guarantee trail connectivity in perpetuity as the City Commission wanted in 2020.
Commissioner David?
Yes, I'm struggling with a lot of things on this particular motion and the questions, but I guess everything I read talks about how the intention is to work with NTN, and I just heard Mr. Hicks talk about working with the NTN and maintaining the integrity of it. So I assume that there's something there that isn't quite working. I'm wondering if we can ask Mr. Hicks up here to just talk about what has happened with the NTN and how you have worked with them and what your intent is to work with them in the future.
Yes, I'm fine with that. Mr. Hicks?
Happy to speak to your questions, Commissioner Davis. So I think we've worked with NTN for 30 years. They're across all our properties, all our trail systems. I can't speak, if you can look at, you can answer a question about the future is based upon history. We've worked with this. We are a for-profit company, so we will have to look at what's in our best interest. But all I can say to your question is, as we worked for 30-plus years, we've got a lot of miles of trails on the property. We have a development that we're proposing in the Forestville area, and we've worked with NTN to mix in the trail system and relocate it on the property so there's connectivity on that north side. I can't answer any more of that. If there is a condition on perpetuity that is different than what we signed up for, that you would like to renegotiate, the agreement that we signed and paid, I would have to really reconsider any kind of other request. But we signed an agreement. We're following the agreement that the city gave to us, and that's the letter of the law. We've done everything for NTN for a number of years. We continue to think it's extremely important to have a great trail system. It's great for the community, absolutely. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I have Lori Hausworth come up and just talk about her concerns about?
Yeah.
It would help me to hear what the concerns you have about needing more time to put something more in writing.
Yeah, this is a concern from my entire board, so I'm speaking here on behalf of the NTN board. We've lost some trails in that area, and not just on Longyear land. We've also lost land on the Hemlock Park development, which was also an area that we have a good working relationship with the owner. And development and the financial end of it does drive the end product. We're here to just voice an opportunity to maybe provide that permanent security that we don't have right now. The trail study that was recently done, and hopefully everybody has had an opportunity to maybe access that, and if you haven't, I can provide that. There's a map showing the risk of parcels across our entire network. We have a lot of risk across the trail networks that we have. It may look like a lot of it is secure. Very little of it at the end of the day is secure. Fortunately, in the city, we have a lot of the Heartwood secure, but not all the Heartwood is secure. Our goal is to permanently protect these corridors, and we're just trying to get there. Is this another step to get there? I hope so. Once Longyear fully develops their property, I don't know what their intent is for the remainder of it. Is there an opportunity to leverage when asked to the benefit of the community? I think that's what we're here to request.
Could you describe how you've worked with the Able and Longyear with their parcel? I mean, and we can't really be concerned at this particular question that's before us doesn't really deal with the property across the highway. And,
Yes.
and what are your concerns specific to these 10 acres that would be within the DDI?
Well, we've already lost trail across the portion that's in the, I don't know if there was a
Well,
letter that
okay,
went around if the
but
map
that
is
has-
there.
Okay, so as you lost those trails, were there discussions with the organization?
We walked the property prior to their development, so we understood what we were losing. When we got notice that they were starting their development, we shut the trail down. And then we started to scout for an actually we shut 2 trails down. We shut the snow bike route down as well as what was called 2-stroke trail. To try to maintain, if you guys, the terrain that we have at the south trails, it's very rugged. So it's very difficult to maintain, let's just say, a family-friendly ability trail through a lot of that terrain. Smiley Trail comes through this property and connects to the new trail that we had to develop that allowed both snow bike grooming as well as an easier route back to the trailhead. Right now, we had to dance the property line there. I don't know if there's any intent for development on that portion. It's really about preserving long-term, making sure we've got that security going forward for the system.
I'm struggling with whether or not this is an issue with the DDI, because we're talking about this designation just within those 10 acres, and I know you've lost a couple trails there, but that's done. So now the concern with this particular 10 acres that they're requesting, I'm just curious if that particular area is a concern, because I think you have a concern overall about trails. That's what I'm hearing, is that overall you have concern about some protection of the trails. But for this specific 10 acres is what we need to be concerned about right now.
No, and that's up to you to determine whether this is tied to this request or not. That's not my purview to determine if there's an opportunity here to.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if
secure it.
there's something else that we need to work with the city to get to where you want it to be. So, but thank you very much. So I have a question now for the city manager, if that's, if we delay this decision until the end of April, what effect does that have on where we want to be with this?
At that point, I would probably, you would look to maybe be doing the consideration for the district, and then quickly thereafter, the application would be coming to the city commission pretty quickly thereafter versus a little bit more time to
So
discuss that.
we would be
But
crunching the
I
time.
would say yes. And also, I don't think that there is a strict time frame at this point with PA 198, but once the district is formed, there is a strict guideline or deadline that needs to be followed if it comes to an application. So when I say delaying it by a month is not a huge impact, this has been one that's been something we've been trying to really navigate through since August and October when we talked with the city commission before too. But I also know that a lot has changed since August and October. So
Okay.
I don't think it's detrimental, but it does just kind of delay a little bit more, and you'd be crunching a little bit faster.
So my other question would be, is once I know this is the application just for the district, but once the request for the tax abatement, is it retroactive?
So there would have to be some discussion with the city assessor, but what they would essentially be looking at is a point in time where we are right now in the taxing year versus the assessment year. We are in the 25 assessment year. So the property at December 31 of 2024 was assessed at that point. And the improvement was probably minimal at what they were looking at. And now going forward for 2025, it would be for the next year. So to answer your question, there wouldn't be much of an impact, I don't believe, on the taxes that would be abated at that time.
Okay.
I say that, but that's not my money. So I'm kind of looking at Able right now to say it's nothing, and maybe it might be for them. But not retroactive, but it does open up the period from that point forward.
Okay, so what I'm still struggling with is the protection of the integrity of the trails overall versus this particular 10 acres. And I'm wondering if there might be a solution to work with NTN for what they are asking for outside of this agreement or this resolution.
What we are looking at for this portion is private property at this point. The agreements, the purchase agreement, and the development agreement stated working with NTN to preserve or relocate trails. I think it was quite broad, and I do believe I sent over that information. But what we're looking at is, I don't see, and I would maybe look to perhaps the city attorney for just a little bit of a confirmation on this one. I don't see any mechanism for us to be enforcing anything or enticing anything other than a simple ask or a request. And those two trails that were mentioned are outside of the PA 198 district at that point. But again, when we look at the purpose of this is to continue the development, I don't know if it would come into that area or not.
Okay, I think I'll quit asking questions. I'd like to hear from the other commissioners.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Thank you. First, I have a question for city manager. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the request of an IDD doesn't change their intent and usage on the property. They can still do whatever they want within the guidelines that it was sold. This is strictly procedural. From everything I'm completely understanding, for them to be able to, in the future, if they want to request a tax abatement, they can do so. Ultimately, when it comes to the trails, I guess I'm having a huge hard time understanding how this affects that at all. Ultimately, them asking for a district change, and then later maybe asking for a tax abatement, maybe that's a good time for us to negotiate at that point. I'm not understanding how, a procedural point like this is stopping that. So if you can explain that a little bit. If my thoughts are wrong, please clear them up.
So I think that, so what I am hearing from this discussion is the development was already approved, or site plan approval, at least through either the planning and zoning office or planning commission. I can't recall which one, but I do believe it went before this planning commission. Thank you. And so when we look at the development as it is and what is currently being planned for that development, that ship has kind of sailed at that point. And also I believe there are some walls up at that point as well. So when we talk about then the future expansion onto the rest of the property that we are somewhat aware is the intent for perhaps even further use outside of just industrial use, which wouldn't qualify for an abatement though, that could have an impact on those trails, but that's assuming quite a bit from this. So had the district request not come before the city commission, I'm not entirely sure we would be having this conversation or have any leverage or ability to, any right to really have any requests on that. But with that being said, we're hearing a need loud and clear and some other future discussions that perhaps were included into the trails plans or something along the nature of that. Does that help clarify?
It does.
Sorry, I think I like hearing myself talk.
Respectfully to Commissioner Gottlieb, as far as your motion goes, I'm a no. Ultimately, I think this is strictly procedural. I think if I'd strongly encourage Longyear and NTN to continue their relationship and have those conversations together, which I believe both parties want to have. I believe both parties want to make this work. Ultimately, I don't think this is the session to be discussing this in, though, in my opinion. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hanley. Yeah, just a couple of thoughts here. And Commissioner Gottlieb, I applaud you as a fairly new commissioner jumping out here on this, but I'm also going to be a no vote on your motion. Looking at this realistically in April, we're going to need to be approving a third and final extension for the construction under the development agreement for this. I think combining both under probably the same agenda even is going to get messy and confusing. Additionally, to Commissioner Ottaway's point, I don't think this is necessarily the time for this discussion. you know, there's a lot of land around this area that is city-owned, and I feel confident the city will work with NTN if there's a way for us to do that on the trails. Also pointing out that, you know, Longyear has been a Marquette-based company now for 151 years. And as the CEO of Longyear even stated, this is going to be a great amenity for their employees as well, to be able to have trail access by this facility. I feel confident between the city and NTN and Longyear that we can figure something out as far as the trails are concerned. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You know, having been a part of the, shortly after everything was purchased with Heartwood, and watching the process develop between the Longyear group, or not Longyear, but the NTN, the city, and everybody else that was, you know, clamoring for a piece of that beautiful piece of property over there. I think that the relationships that were built and the trust that was given throughout that process is really something that I'm going to lean back on and say I'm quite sure that you know, the NTN or any other entity part of that's not going to be left behind. And I really appreciate what you said, Commissioner Mayor, as far as the fact that, you know, we've got a relationship with the NTN as far as city property goes. And I look at this as above and beyond, you know, what we're really here to vote about tonight. Is I wouldn't buy a piece of property and then tell somebody that you know, I couldn't use all of it the way that I wanted to, because it's, you know, such a massive investment. So, you know, as much as I support, just renewed my membership to the NTN again this year, but I would hope that I will be pushing with the NTN to work with the city and other property owners and do their best to maximize the amount of experience that they've been providing for our community and those that come to visit our community, because it truly is an experience. You know, it's not just a bike trail that runs through the woods. It's a crafted trail that is truly just it's a journey. It's not just a ride or a walk. So they've done such a great job, and I'm sorry to see a couple of these trails go. But back when things were purchased by the city and we started to allow the NTN or trails to be built, there was always this possibility in the background that this might occur. And, you know, once in a while we got to hit some bumps and we got to move over a little bit and do what we got to do. And I think that, you know, I'm glad that you're here tonight, Lori and Commissioner Gottlieb, for your comments, because we certainly need to make sure that you're part of the conversation as things develop down the line. Thank you.
Commissioner Larson, did you want to speak?
Sure. I guess, you know, certainly thanks to the NTN, you know, the advocacy that you provide. You certainly highlight how our trail systems aren't just recreational assets, you know, they're economic and cultural and environmental drivers here in our community. But given that, I also support the expanding of, you know, able medical devices and create opportunities through the IDD here. And so I think there's a way that we can, you know, potentially preserve that South Trail experience and can coexist with that development. And so I think we originally had that, the original Heartwood sale agreement had some language in there, albeit broad, about working with the NTN to preserve that access. And I would hope that, you know, Able Medical and Longyear would, you know, continue to confirm that commitment that was made, you know, with that original purchase of that property. And that's kind of what I heard here. And so I would urge there to be ongoing discussions on how that could work in the future as development moves forward. So I think, you know, right now with those trails, while they bring, you know, they do bring in a lot of money annually to our community, you know, that's important. That's important. And, you know, I don't know that Able wants to, you know, dismantle that, you know, in the lease. I know we want to preserve trail access, and you have valid concerns about that gradual loss of trails. But, you know, I would hope Able and Longyear will reaffirm that that language and continue to reach out and try to figure out how to work together as that development moves forward. So I would support, you know, today, you know, moving forward with that, the IDD.
The reason I seconded this motion is because I feel that this is a discussion that is very valuable, and we, all of Marquette loves the NTN trails. It is a really asset to our community. And I struggle with just the fact that where this particular 10 acres is, and it does not encompass any current trails, that we need to concern ourselves with just the requested 10 acres. I really hope that the two organizations hear us about wanting you to work together to make this work for both organizations and for the community, and that maybe the discussions haven't been as robust as NTN would like. But I think you're hearing that from all of us, that we would like them to sit down at the table and talk about that more. I understand your concern about the integrity of the trails, but I think it's a bigger issue than what we're looking at this particular decision.
Thank you. I'm going to just add my thing here. So when I look at this as the IDD, I look at it as we sold this property in good faith with a contract, and now we're trying to put more constraints on a property that's already owned. They have shown I've seen nothing from Able or Longyear that have shown that they are not willing to work with the NTN. But the other side of it that I see is the reason we have so much of the Heartwood Forest available for these trails and for the city of Marquette use is because of the sale of these other parcels that allowed for that to happen. It was expected when that was purchased that this would happen and these developments would happen. So I find it hard to try and stop the exact thing from happening that was expected. I do see them working with us, and I do know that it may not be the exact trail system that you want in that area, but I am sure that they will work with you in order to keep it going. From what I'm hearing on the commission, though, Suzanne, I might need your help on this. I don't see a lot of support for this motion as it stands. Do we vote on this motion and then have another one brought forward? Perfect. Do we have any other comments before we vote on this? Commissioner Gottlieb?
I'm sorry, I'm not as good of a spokesperson as I wanted to be. I know what I wanted to say. I thought this was a not last chance, but a try to preserve trail integrity. Again, I am in favor of the IDD. I just really want to preserve trail integrity, and I was hoping to find a way to do both at the same time.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't do a good job.
You did a perfectly good job. All right, commissioners. It is a roll call vote for this as well. Oh, Commissioner Ottaway?
I just want to comment to Commissioner Gottlieb. You should not ever feel bad for having an opinion here. I think that's
Actually,
extremely.
I was just giving words.
Hey, you know something? It's extremely important to make yourself heard. Your comments are no more important than the rest of ours. And ultimately, as we sit here, it's always good to hear and listen and talk, because ultimately your conversation started what I hope is a conversation between the two parties. And that's really was a huge thing and a good intention on your part to have done. So I applaud you for that, and always encourage you to make sure you continue doing that. So thank you.
All right. City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Davis?
No.
Commissioner Gottlieb?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
No.
Commissioner Mayer?
No.
Commissioner Ottaway?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel?
No.
And Mayor Hanley?
No. Motion fails 1 to 6? 6, okay. Commissioner Mayer?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the resolution and authorize the city clerk to sign.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Second.
Any discussion? City Clerk, may I have another roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Gottlieb?
Yeah.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer?
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel?
Yes.
And Mayor Hanley?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. This brings us to our second public hearing of the evening, the Recreation Master Plan. Deputy City Clerk, may I please have the background?
The Recreation Master Plan is a document that guides public policy, capital improvements, and the budget process for parks and recreation within the city of Marquette. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board has reviewed this plan at 7 of their meetings, providing feedback and input. The Planning Commission determined at their February 18th, 2025 meeting that the plan is consistent with the Community Master Plan and recommended its adoption by the City Commission. At its February 24th, 2025 meeting, the City Commission scheduled a public hearing to allow the community time to review the draft plan and provide any additional comments. Public input was gathered through a posting on the city's website and physical copies at Lakeview Arena. Additionally, the city conducted 3 days of stakeholder meetings and 2 open houses to learn and engage with the draft plan. Fiscal effect: no direct fiscal effect with this action. However, the Recreation Master Plan is a tool to help plan the course of the Community Services, Parks and Recreation Division in terms of operations, budgeting, and capital projects. Recommendation: adopt the resolution to approve the 5-year Recreation Master Plan as publicly presented and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. I will now invite John Swenson to give a little presentation. Again, Commission, no comments or questions until after the public comment portion.
Thank you, Your Honor and Commissioners, for this opportunity to present today. Let me switch over from Bob's presentation here. Right. Okay, as that's coming up, this plan is, again, a revision of the 5-year Recreation Master Plan. This is a process that we go through every 5 years. The last one was approved in 2019. Mr. Dick Horton was the consultant that was selected by the City Commission to help us with this planning process. So, as far as the planning process goes, there was a robust planning process that started with stakeholder interviews that were 3 days long. So that would be all the folks that were involved with any of the activities or opportunities within the city. All the ones that we could come up with, sat down in a room and really got their thoughts out, as well as the city staff, department heads, and many commissioners were involved with that as well. We also had 2 days of open houses, 7 PRAB meetings, and the Harbor Advisory Committee and Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee were also still in existence at that time. There's 2 meetings each for that. One with the Planning Commission, which was already mentioned, and then this public hearing. The website has had the plan on it for about 35 days now, with opportunities. So this kind of gives a little bit of an overview of, you know, the intent of the planning process, and those were the meetings that were involved. Briefly, just as far as the history goes, the master plan is updated every 5 years, as I mentioned. The statistically valid citizen survey is done every 10 years. So gotten a lot of questions about the 10-year survey that's in there and the data that's in there. And I think that anybody that was involved with the survey 5 years ago would second this comment, and that is that it's shocking how similar the data is every 10 years. We thought really the last time that we did the citizen survey that we were going to get drastically different information. It's, you know, Marquette wants what Marquette wants, and there's some nuances that change, and there's some trends that change, but for the most part, every 10 years, that's very similar. So that data is very useful to us. There's also, you know, as far as the public engagement, you know, we do that every 10 years as well. And this master plan really provides, you know, some focus for management and challenges and priorities. So it's always a juggling act within the recreation industry to manage all the wants and needs and priorities of the citizens within the community that you work in. And Marquette is no different with that. But then to allocate the appropriate resources to make those happen. It's always a challenge. So this plan guides us in that process. And then last but not least, it is very important that we have this plan registered with the Department of Natural Resources if we seek trust fund grants, passport grants, or other recreation grants within the system. So this is the tool that allows that to happen. And they have some specific guidelines that we had to follow to make this. The planning themes, I'm just putting this up here and I'm not going to go through it. But I want you to be aware that there are several major planning themes that were entertained within this process. And this isn't an exhaustive list of them. There were more, but then on the right-hand side is some examples of the stakeholders' comments and the public comments that we got in each one of those planning themes. So lots of great information in there, but we tried to hit all the major planning themes with this process. This was an important part of the master planning process. This is a cost recovery model. So this model was created by a fellow named Dr. John Crompton out of Texas A&M. He's done extensive work on showing the value of green spaces and recreation opportunities, along with and marrying that up with the economic impact of those within the communities. So we have a cost recovery model because we can't be all things to all people, and we can't pay for all things to all people. So at some point we have to decide what is the level that our community is willing to subsidize certain things, and at what level should we be recovering those costs with fees. So some good examples in there. The very top of the pyramid would be 70 to 100% cost recovery. So think about taking your RV to Tourist Park and camping there. We don't think taxpayers should be paying for that experience for you, or if you have a pleasure boat in one of the 2 marinas. Those should be things that recover their costs on their own. Moving down, the bottom of the pyramid would be things that we think are generally difficult to recover fees on, and also more beneficial to almost all tax-paying residents. So you think bike trails, green spaces, things of that nature. In the middle, there's some, the blue area is, that is 35 to 70% cost recovery. So you'll notice things like Lakeview Arena in there. That's a bit of a hot topic this week. And so that is expected to recover between 35 and 70% as per national standards. And we're at about 73% right now. So it's actually this year in the upper tier, but it's spent most of its life in the category that it's in. So this is the tool that we use to help create policy to decide what those fee schedules look like when we bring them to you during budget season. Direct economic impact. So this is just a piece of all of it, but you can kind of see, what these groups bring into the community. So when you think about restaurants, bars, hotels, other economic impact that these groups might bring when they bring people to our community. There's, of note, the largest one on there is Marquette Junior Hockey. And then there's the figure skating is fairly high up in there as well. Some of the field sports are a little bit less, and we weren't able to get all the information on Little League and their tournaments. But not included in this are some of the events that we have within the city. So a lot of these events, UP 200 is usually about $2 million. Order Shore Mountain Bike Epics about $2 million. No Cayman Island Ski Marathon about $1 million, $1.5 million in economic impact. So those are also included in the plan as well. I wanted to include this in there. This is a map that we had community development draw up for this plan. So, oftentimes we hear, the words Traverse City and don't Traverse City, our shoreline kind of thing. I just wanted to point out that with this in the plan, that Marquette has done a phenomenal job of protecting our shoreline. It's something you don't see on the Great Lakes anywhere near the level that we have, and it's because of proactive policy, from before I was born. And so what we have here is about 85% with the addition of the Shires plant is public access. So that's for Lake Superior community, that's pretty much unheard of. So that hopefully gives us a little bit of something to have a conversation when we hear those comments about development within the community. It also explains why we might do things like maybe purchase a piece of property or trade something to We Energies to get the parking lot across the street when they move on. So that's all within the city's master plan, and I think this is a valuable tool for us. Funding categories and key findings. So the name of the game with this plan is really to take care of what we have. We've done an awful lot of things over the last 5 years since the last plan. And in no small thanks to the community for fundraising efforts for Kids Cove and other projects, and some other projects that didn't require funds. However, we have an awful lot in the inventory, and there's a lot of needs out there as far as maintenance. So it really talks about that, and with that, it highlights the need for increased maintenance staff as the budget allows in the future. It talks about enhancing and expanding what we have. So with the Trails Master Plan, in conjunction with all of our partners, NTN, the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, others, there's things out there that we still haven't accomplished as far as providing connectivity. And a lot of those have to do with the 41 corridor, and community development, does a lot on those efforts when opportunities come up. But we mentioned it in the plan. Anytime there's an opportunity to fix some of those gaps, we support that. And then recreation facilities, dog park. We hear dog park all the time. I know Commissioner Schlegel doesn't want one, but it's one of the top facilities that we need to figure out what to do with. And the challenge there is finding the right space that works within the system and doesn't conflict with other things. So. Also identify locations for pickleball courts that are not on the tennis courts. There's only 3 tennis courts within the system at this time that are actually owned and operated by the city, and those are at Williams Park. So we want to find a spot where pickleball courts can be separate from those. We've identified the need for 1 additional soccer field, and we think we have a pretty good plan for that at Kaufman Sports Complex, and the plan really kind of highlighted that. Our senior center needs either an upgrade or a new location to be accessible and actually meet the growing need that we have within the community. And the cultural trail, we will have 8 sites in on the cultural trail this year, but you'll notice the next category that's on there as well for possible future development as Commission desires warrant it, and as funding becomes real. Fund a new vision or trend. We heard a lot about aquatic facilities within the planning process, and the plan speaks to working with community partners on that. We don't think the city's in the place to start running pools, but there could be an opportunity for the city to help coordinate that with other partners. And then upgrade and expand Lakeview Arena. That's in there. And with that comes the conversation that we heard over and over again, which is a indoor sports facility. So that's a major want, and it's a very expensive one. And it was lumped in with something to do with Lakeview Arena and possibly something to do with the senior center. So those were the major 3 categories of the recommendations. A couple of things that this plan we determined was not going to happen as a part of this plan, but this plan recommends. The Jack Reynolds Athletic Complex, which is the complex right at Wright Street and Presque Isle. This plan says that we ought to have a planning process to look deeper at that, to determine if there's opportunities for other recreation opportunities in that space. And then the other one that this plan calls for, and it's something that we've heard from people in this room, we've heard from the community, and that is a land use plan for the developed section of Presque Isle Park. So we're working on Olmsted's vision to not mess with the rest of the park, but if there's to be development, it should be near the entrance where it is currently. But what that looks like in the future and how we move that into the future is yet to be determined, and we ought to engage into a planning process for that specifically. That's all I had as far as the presentation. So I wanted to open it up and see if there was any questions directly for me before you opened up the public comment.
I'm sorry, we cannot do that beforehand, can we? No, we have to wait
Okay.
until the public hearing, so
Perfect.
we'll call you back up if we have more questions. Thank you. With that, we will open our public hearing. Members of the public wishing to comment on this public hearing have 3 minutes to do so. Please state your name and physical address when addressing the commission. Do we have anyone for the public hearing? Any comments for the public hearing? With that, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Ottaway?
I move to adopt a resolution to approve the 5-year recreation master plan as publicly presented and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, this was a huge process that I know John and his team, as well as basically city, everyone that was a part of it was city staff as well. They had to kind of tooth and comb through some of the things that were pointed out as errors and other things that wanted to be added by certain other groups. And I just applaud you guys for taking the time to do it and really get it to us in a very presentable manner. It really outlines what the future is for the next 5 years. And frankly, I look forward to seeing the next 5 years and what it becomes, as well as look forward to the next plan and another survey, because I do think that with COVID, we could actually get some different responses, and looking forward to seeing that. But thank you, guys.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes, John and your staff, congratulations on getting it to this point, because I know it's a long and arduous process. The cost recovery model has, and maybe I need to bring them up here, or you can answer from there. The cost recovery model, is this the first time we've had that?
No, we've had that in the last 3 plans.
Okay.
So every plan, it's an opportunity to revisit it and kind of, make sure we've got things in the right categories. And
Yeah, I like it, and I found it to be very helpful. I was impressed with the number of people that showed up at the open houses and gave input. I guess one of my questions is, and the one that is on the website is the most recent one, correct?
correct.
Okay, so chapter 2 describes the public input, which is, what the open houses were, and lists the people that were interviewed, and I saw some of their comments there that you put up there, and the number of public meetings. I was curious about the results of the public meetings, so when I read the statement on page 21 that says, and I'm going to quote, "Their verbatim comments are included in the appendix of this master plan." So I was excited, so I flipped to the appendix, but I couldn't find it. So I'm just wondering that the public meetings that were in the appendix were just from the 2018, and should we not include the most recent public input?
So we have, it's still on. So we have a section that goes in after that has public comments from this meeting, from this public hearing, and from the 35-day period, as well as those meetings. So we'll add that in there.
So we will have the verbatim comments from okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking for it. So now I have a couple other comments, or maybe they're questions, and I apologize because I know I provided input earlier, and it was today that I started looking at the plan again, and I started with the appendix. So I really like the whole idea about the grant history, because it really tells the public and us how we leverage the funds and to improve things. But I found it interesting that the only grants that were listed they were actually all closed out on December 7th of 2018. So there were 11 of them that were closed out on that particular date. So I found that kind of interesting, and haven't we had grants since then?
Yeah, so that's a form that we get from the DNR, so it may be with their system when they switched in 2018 to the new MyRec grants, it may be that it just defaulted to that. But we can definitely look at that. And you also had a comment on, adding an appendix to the grants, or like a table. So every year we have to go through and we have to go out and take pictures of all those plaques for the trust funds and for the passports and land water conservation grants and all of those. And so at that time, that might be a really good time for us to go on our own and formulate those into a spreadsheet that would be really useful for the next plan.
But we have had some grants since 2018, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
it would have been nice to hear about those. And then the other thing that I noticed was the budget sheets were from 2019.
that shouldn't have been, but that would be one to take a look at. So I'll make note of those.
Perhaps we can update, and I didn't notice it until today, so otherwise I would have mentioned it earlier, so I apologize. But I'm overall I'm happy with this plan, and I'm really glad that it meshes with what is being looked at by the state for future grants. So I certainly am going to be a yes on this vote.
That's good, thanks.
Any other commissioners with comments? Okay, seeing none. Deputy City Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Gottlieb,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel,
Yes.
Mayor Handley.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. With that, it brings us to our consent agenda. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Larson?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second? Pro Tem Schlegel?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
I'd love the city manager to speak on item 5G if she could, just give a little background.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's the first read, right?
Sorry, we were confirming that we were both on the same page here, because sometimes they get renumbered. So to speak on this item, is there a specific question other than this is something that kind of came out in light of some issues we had experienced last year with people setting up campers, tourists setting up campers, and they're in the parking lots, some of our parking lots, some of our parks, sometimes on the driveway of Tourist Park. And our mechanism for really enforcing that, especially with the tourists, is a little bit limited. Generally, we do ask them to move along and they do comply, but there are some that are continuing to break the rules that the second we turn our back and perhaps they're coming back. So this is one to allow us for a little bit more of that enforcement. I do not see that I would say our strategy on how we address that, I do not see that changing with other people, other than tourists, but we can't really define that. It's kind of a gray area, but it is something that I would like to continue that conversation before the next read, which would have the final approval, and have already, fortunately, Chelsea has already reached out to us and is looking to have those conversations. But it is one that we felt necessary to put a little bit more teeth with. Tickets is a last resort.
Commissioner Mayer?
Could you also just share the commission meeting date for the second reading for that?
I do believe the second reading is going to be on April 14th. If that is, excuse me while I just pull that up. I do believe that is our next meeting, so yes, April 14th.
Any other commissioners? And I would like to point out that I do believe we will have that on our new business item. It will not be on consent by any means for the next meeting. With that, it brings us to a vote. Deputy City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Gottlieb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel,
Yes.
and Mayor Hanley.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. This brings us to our last public comment session of the evening. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address if you have not already done so at this meeting. Do we have anyone for public comment?
Hi, my name is, excuse me, Virginia Killow. I live at 1710 Harborview Drive in Marquette. I'm speaking to you tonight about my concerns for my son, Alexander. And this is in light of the impact of the impending cuts to the social safety net, which is going to have an impact across the city and state. Al is a 34-year-old man who has very involved autism. He has lived in his own home with necessary support staff since he was 18 years old. He has been on a Medicaid waiver since early childhood, and the waiver is administered through Pathways Community Mental Health. The waiver pays for his support staff and team of providers to address his needs. Al has been able to be active in the community and have a good life despite his autism. Al's only income is through Social Security disability. This barely covers his rent, food, medicine, and other necessities. Currently, both Medicaid and Social Security are threatened, all to benefit the wealthy in this country. If these benefits are disrupted, there is no alternative way for Al to live. He needs specially trained staff, and he needs his own space in his own home. I had to look for other options for Al when COVID disrupted his life and staffing became so difficult. So I know what's not available. It would not be viable for Al to live in an adult foster care because of his sensory issues, but there are also no available beds anywhere in Michigan. There are also no hospital beds available. When Al needed to be hospitalized 14 months ago, there were no beds in the state, and he was sent to Indiana. State psychiatric hospitals in Michigan are not appropriate for people with developmental disabilities, and they're at capacity. There is literally no place for Al to go, and there's no way for him to live. Al is not the only one in this situation by any means. In fact, there are many, many in our community and state whose lives will be shattered. But he's mine. And I've fought and struggled all his life to obtain and preserve the supports and the services that he needs and is entitled to. The axe is hanging over our heads, and I can't see a future. I want you, our community leaders, to know Al's story and to have a face for this desperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? With that, public comment is now closed, and it will bring us to comments from the commissioner. We will start today with Commissioner Larson.
Thank you, Virginia. It's important to know stories like that in our community and know that there's difficulties for those among us, and sometimes we don't know where to turn. And so I'm glad that you brought that to us to allow us, a glimpse into that and for us to think about how we as a community can lift folks like your son up and into a better life. I don't know what that is right now. However, I do thank you for sharing that with us. I would also like to express my appreciation to all the community members who have taken time this year to share input, whether that's, around the recreation master plan or even tonight's public hearings, trails. It's that kind of engagement that really helps us do our jobs better here in town and as a commission. Also, just a quick thank you to, staff for keeping things moving during this late March snowstorm, that had us. March is out like a lion. And then also just echoing, the importance of, how important it is to protect the character of our trails and access to public lands, even as we grow. So I think Marquette, of course, has something very, very special. And, I know we can continue to balance development and preservation in a way that benefits everyone. So I'm hopeful that we can continue to move along those lines. And then just on a slightly lighter note, I was just disappointed that I couldn't make the motion on the consent agenda to say that I approve the addition of Michigan Cooperative Liquid Asset Security Systems as an approved investment option, which didn't come up as a discussion item, but it was technical, but it was necessary just to show our city's financial, we have the city's financial stewardship, moving forward on that point. So that's my comments for tonight.
Very good job on that. Pro Tem Schlegel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to just echo a couple of things there, Ms. Cole. My family's directly affected by what you're referencing tonight, and it's scary. I feel for you, and I feel for others that are involved similarly. And I'm not sure where we're headed right now, but I want you to know that you're not alone. Thank you for your sentiment tonight. Another thing, the city, all things considered, with that dump that we got the last couple of days on snow, did a fantabulous job today, getting us back and up and running. So thank you to city staff, everybody involved there, and thank you to our community members that got out and took care of the jobs that they had to do themselves, getting their sidewalks cleared. There were a lot of people walking in the street last couple of days because sidewalks weren't available, but so keep an eye out. We're going to get a little bit more snow yet this year, I'm sure, but it's watch out for your neighbors and help your neighbors. I was fortunate enough to be able to get out on Saturday and Sunday, and because I have a tractor, I'm able to get out and help some people that maybe aren't as lucky, but help your neighbors out if you get a chance. Don't be afraid to spend a little time, get to know them. That's really all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just, I think I'm going to add a little here to the story that was shared during our last public comment. My family and I, we spent the last 4 months of last year down at a NICU because our second child was born at 26 weeks. Private insurance is great and all, but at the end of the day, when you're looking at a $1.5 million NICU stay, I'm very thankful that under the statute, she automatically qualified for things like Medicaid and children's special health under the state of Michigan. I don't know how we could have possibly recovered from that if we didn't have something like that. I hear scenarios like what you just described. Federal policies for tribal sovereignty being revoked, retirees being told that their Social Security is an entitlement. I hear you, and I'm sorry that we can't do anything to help. But if coming and voicing those concerns to somebody like your local leaders brings you any comfort, by all means, please keep coming and speaking. Thank you.
I'll echo everyone's comments about the final public comment we had. Ultimately, we are living in very challenging times for everyone. Don't forget that this is an outlet. This is maybe your one spot where you can make your voice heard. Feel free to come here and do it. We only allow 3 minutes at the beginning and end of the meeting, and that's not nearly enough time for some people. But please use it. Don't be afraid to share your opinion. Your voice really matters, more now than ever. With that, I also want to thank our local police for responding to an event at the hospital. As all of you are aware, there was a person that had carried a weapon into the hospital. Police once again responded diligently, well trained, well thought out, and I will just say thankful for the law enforcement we have in the city of Marquette that is very community oriented, very much into listening to the people that are bringing concerns to them, I think we're a very special community because of that. And also I ask all community members, keep your eyes open. We live in very, very challenging times, like it's already been said. If you think something needs to be reported, it doesn't hurt to report it. Thank you.
It's good to see this many people at a city commission meeting, so thank you all for coming, even if, whether you speak or not. And there was a little bit emotional today when we talk about our vulnerable populations, not only Ginny, but thank you, Chelsea and Alicia, for bringing forth your concerns. And I'm hoping that we can address them in some verbiage or something with that ordinance. I woke up this morning to this really beautiful winter wonderland, and I had 3 opportunities to get stuck. One of them, I actually did manage to get stuck, and as I was trying to shovel out, in my workout shorts, trying to shovel out my car, there was one of the city workers, and not a snowplow, but one of the other machines, had recognized that I wasn't the only one that was going to get stuck there. I must have just been the first person to try to get through that. And I was so impressed with his skills about how he did that and how he maneuvered around my car. And although I still had to shovel my car out, the rest of the community in my neighborhood did not have to get stuck. So I really appreciated all of the snow removal today. And it's pretty awesome how fast it happens. So, thank you.
Commissioner
You know, being next to last, I can basically just say I echo what everybody else said. I'm sorry that we had to hear your comments, but I'm glad you brought them.
Thank you. I also want to comment on Jenny. I hate the desperation you must be feeling in order to come here to us. And I hate that there's nothing we can outright do, but I do appreciate you coming and making sure that not only Al's story is shown, but other people in the community might feel the need to talk about the stories of fear that they're facing for their families. So thank you for coming. And Chelsea, thank you and everyone else from Room at the Inn coming to speak up your concerns about our agenda item. Believe me, they're heard, and we do know, and we will look at it. It is definitely something that I noticed as soon as I saw it on the agenda and worried about it from that point forward. And I will be working with the commission, and we will see what we can do to address it to make sure that we are keeping the community safe and able to be survived in, as well as not having people camping in our parking lots on beaches that are tourists coming in from other areas. So thank you for bringing that as well. With that, I will bring it to comments from the city manager.
Thank you. I do want to just mention that if there are concerns for some of the changes that are occurring in the federal policy and federal government world, there are some contacts you can to follow for our senator. So Senator Alyssa Slotkin has been incredibly resourceful and helpful for the local government side, providing us with links for resources and communication. So if there is something, perhaps I can assist with connecting you with her representative here in the UP. She is very responsive and has a deep, love for the UP. So I'm sure that there may be some avenue that she can maybe assist, or there probably will be a need to tell your story again. And as painful as that is to tell over and over again, I think it's going to be incredibly important for her to hear the impact it has, because you're not the only one. You're the one that is speaking up about it. So I will hopefully talk to you after the meeting if you don't mind. A reminder that community office hours is coming up again April 9th, which is Wednesday, from 10 a.m. to noon. We will be in the library. I do believe it's going to be back in the Shirus room. Last month we were in a different room, so hopefully y'all made to the right meeting. And then to touch on the snow event. So the Public Works Department maintains nearly 90 miles of roads in the wintertime, and about 19 miles of sidewalks that are plowed, and then quite a few public parking lots. So we received a significant amount of snow and incredibly heavy, and also covering some ice. So a little bit more challenging this time of year when we do get those snowfalls. So I really appreciate all of the patience that our community has shown. But also, if there is something that was missed, they were not afraid to call and let us know. And perhaps maybe we did, and perhaps maybe we just haven't gotten there yet. But we certainly appreciate that. Now, it is March 31st. Tomorrow is April 1st. And so we all know that the parking ban ends on April 1st. But if you don't want your car plowed in, accidentally, unintentionally, please do not be parking in the street when there is going to be some snow. So while that's not going to be necessarily enforceable, but it may be a little bit of common sense, perhaps. And then there was a mention of how well our snowplow drivers can kind of navigate around things, and whether they're in the snowplow or a machine. And just so everybody knows, our city crew, some of our city crew and our public works director had attended a snowplow rodeo. And while we may not have taken home the gold belt buckle, they did incredibly well. And I do have some video at some point to show everybody, and maybe during Public Works Week. But it is something that we are looking to, continue to hone our skills in. So maybe we have to have a little bit more snow here to brush up on those skills, but our crews are fantastic at what they do. So kudos to them, and thanks for giving them some extra patience. Thank you.
Just as a thing that I realized we should probably mention, the commission does have a work session coming up.
Is there a work session?
There is a work
What's that
session
about?
coming up on this Wednesday. It will be held in the
Citizens Forum.
There we go. And what time does it start at?
5:15.
Perfect. For anyone who wants to talk to or listen to the information about the Lakeview Arena and a group that is interested in it. So thank you for that. With that, we are adjourned at 7:40 p.m.